And welcome to Behind the Lens. And for those, you'll hear more of this. I'm playing with toys today. We have a plethora of good dinosaur toys here, including a talking Butch the T-Rex voiced by Sam Elliott himself. Later in the show today, you will actually hear some of the press day interviews I had with Sam Elliott, Jeffery, Wright, Raymond Ochoa, Paquin and AJ Buckley, as well as director Pete Sohn and producer Denise Ream. But first, welcome again. Week of Thanksgiving. Very thankful to have all of you as listeners and viewers out there. My name is Debbie Elias, moviesharkdeblore.com. You can find my movie reviews and interviews all over the place. Culver City Observer, Delray News, Beacon Times, Chain, Examiner, and on YouTube with Behind the Lens every week. We do a 3-camera video shoot that is beautifully shot by my DP Jordan Johnson and edited thereafter. We're also on iTunes after today's show airs live. It's available as a podcast on iTunes, generally by tonight or tomorrow morning, plus also on the Adrenaline Radio archive and my website and a few other places that we have learned are downloading video and audio. But today's show, it's a looser show, a lot of interview clips today. You have been warned. But this is all about the Good Dinosaur and what has become a part and parcel with Pixar animation now. A new short film, Sanjay Super Team, that precedes The Good Dinosaur. So you're in for a real treat. We also have joining us live at 11:30. Very excited about this. Is documentarian Delila Vallot. Delila has made this incredible documentary that's also a lot of fun and it's very eye-opening called Can You Dig This? I know most of you, you're hearing Can You Dig This? You're thinking it's some kind of hip-hop or 60s retro music documentary. It is not. It is all about the urban gardening revolution that is taking hold of South Central Los Angeles. That's right. It's not all bloodshed, violence, gang banging, and guns going off. A lot of people are picking up shovels and starting their own gardens, community gardens, private gardens. And the guy that spearheaded that, Ron Finley, I was hoping Ron would be able to join us today. I don't think he is able to, but we will have Delila at the half-hour mark, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's get in an animated mood and talk about Sanjay's Super Team. As comes as no surprise with Pixar, they have pushed the envelope once again, not only with The Good Dinosaur, as you've heard over the past month, hearing from the likes of production designer Harley Jessup and cinematographer Sharon Callahan, but also with this short film, Sanjay's Super Team. The director is Sanjay Patel. Sanjay has been on the Pixar team as an animator for a number of years. He joined Pixar in 96 with Bug's Life, and he was animating. He has since worked on Monsters University, Mater's Tall Tales, Ratatouille, The Incredibles, Toy Story 2. And prior to coming to Pixar, he also worked at doing character layout for The Simpsons. So he's got an extensive background. He is also an acclaimed artist in his own right. He's a self-published comic graphic novel focusing on the iconography of Hindu deities. And it's that very iconography that he incorporates into the story of Sanjay's Super Team. And to give you a little background on the story, Sanjay himself, he based this story on his life. He growing up in 1980s in the United States, his parents had come over from India and are Hindi. He wasn't too keen on the religious aspect of his life, as most kids are not when they're 6, 7 years old. And Sanjay was more interested in Saturday morning cartoons and the superhero cartoons of the day. And there was a constant struggle between Sanjay and his father. Well, and what Sanjay's super team does is it bases it on the life of the real Sanjay, but then the little Sanjay in the short film has a daydream while he is forced to pray with his father. And what he dreams of are Hindu deities that turn into superheroes. So while I was up at Pixar last month, I had a chance to sit down for a very enlightening and informative one-on-one with Sanjay Patel and his producer, Nicole Grindle, to talk about some of the elements that went into making Sanjay's super team. When you see the film this week, when it opens before the Good Dinosaur, because you're all going to go running off to see it, and I know this, you will see incredible new uses of light. You will see a blend of eye-popping colors, a technique called ghosting that creates a cosmic look within the film. It is eye-popping, it is magical, it is ethereal, it is, quite honestly, it is as exciting as any Avenger movie. But it has something that the live-action superhero movies don't have. You really feel the heart of Sanjay that he put into the short. So, the first thing that I talked to Sanjay and Nicole about is just that, color and lighting. And here's what they had to say.
That's you.
Be a director.
It was a combination. I'll speak about the kind of the art philosophical side, and maybe you could speak about the technical side. How about that?
I'll do my best.
Okay, so first and foremost, I knew that I needed to sort of respect the deities and their sort of color traditions. Mm-hmm. Luckily, if you add up our RGB, red, green, blue, which are the three colors for our principal deities, they, in the light spectrum, they combine to make white light. And so I knew, first and foremost, this whole story kind of revolves around light. The light of the diya that is extinguished and then is lit again. And so I really wanted this sort of underpinning of the combination of these three colors creates this pure sort of light that the boy sort of realizes and appreciates at the end. So I kind of had that kind of secret esoteric sauce underpinning all of this. And then we had Paul Abadilla, a beautiful sort of painter. He created a lot of sort of paintings that sort of started to explore this, as well as Chris Sasaki. He again interpreted, I was like, I wanted, you know how when you're in traffic and it's rained and you see all these little drops of rain on your windshield and what it does in terms of all the cars, in terms of the lights, neon, what neon looks like reflected on a windshield in droplets. That was the kind of garbage that I was kind of spewing to Chris Sasaki, our director.
It's like painting a prism.
Kind of like prism, what light does in sort of prismatic form, precisely. And it was this kind of, all these kind of strange adjectives that I was kind of describing that got morphed and interpreted through art and then finally got handed to technical.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm a producer, not a technical director, but
that's okay.
So I'll speak in...
You could fire them if they're not doing their job, so, you know.
But the most blood was spilled exactly where you were talking about, so... Absolutely,
and so, you know, that affected our lighting department. And moving backwards, as I mentioned before, the ghosting actually did give them pause initially. We had a great supervising technical director, Darwin Peachy, who's really experienced. I mean, he's been at Pixar at least, I think he's like a 25-year veteran here. And so he was mature enough not to say absolutely not, and very quickly actually was able to execute that ghosting after we showed him the Samsara clip. But he did say, whoa, I don't know how we're going to do that. And they always say that initially.
Of course.
And again, the jewelry, we spent so many hours talking about how we're going to simulate the jewelry because everybody at Pixar wants to make everything as realistic as possible. And sometimes you have to say to them,
jewelry moves.
But it doesn't have to. But we don't have to have every single bead move. Like move them as a group, and you have to talk them back from making it like absolutely brilliant in a film that's entirely about jewelry or entirely about ghosting.
Good point.
And so we were able to pull them back to that, and then they started doing these tests that were amazing. And again, we had this lighting director of photography and our effects supervisor who were able to just work like this. And they had to work like that because of all the effects work had to work within that lighting and was, you know, was informing the lighting and the lighting was informing the effects. and they were doing all this compositing work and lighting in order to iterate really quickly. That's one of the things that's hardest for us in our lighting process, is that we do everything in camera, and they have to render it, and it takes 24 hours to turn it around and say, yep, it's terrible, or it's great.
You'd get maybe 1 or 2 frames versus all the frames, typically, with the way we light.
So they started doing all of these various composites so that we could iterate and say, that works, or that doesn't work, let's try it again, and like in a few hours they could bring something back to you.
And what was happening that kind of, I think, really kicked it towards something that we hadn't seen before is because Charu Clark, our lighting soup, and Bill Wittrell, our effects soup, they were working in concert more than ever before, and they were giving me back every frame, every night.
Yep.
And then my art director and I, Chris Sasaki, we could look at it and we could suddenly see something that was in progress that for their group would say, that's totally broken, it's not done. I'm like, no. That looks amazing.
That's right. That was the best.
Chris and I would be like, oh, that's amazing. And they're like, no, don't look at that. You weren't supposed to look at that. We hadn't had a chance to address that. I'm like, no, that's great.
Yes.
All those lens flares, all those spikes of white hot light, all that blurriness we want.
And you don't expect to see lens flares in an animated film of any kind.
Well, we do put them in. Lens flare has been a part of our filmmaking since at least A Bug's Life. I know, maybe Toy Story.
Or how about
very judiciously.
Oh, here's our little moment of lens flare, but to do it constantly.
And to blow characters out, to really blast out the sides of characters like you see.
And blasting out the sides of characters, especially the Hindu deities, is exactly what you're going to see. And one of the interesting things that Sanjay has perfected within the construct, the visual construct of the film, is the very squared shape of the real world, as opposed to the very round shape of Sanjay's dream world with the gods. But we mentioned color, and Sanjay in color. Nicole and I are both of the opinion that he truly is a master of color. He may not have the same opinion of himself.
Lots of blood was spilled for that, but we fought. Everybody was so thrilled with that.
Oh, you're such an artist. I mean, that's what a lot of people said. They said, to have a director who is such a particular visual artist. We have directors who are more storytellers or more animators, but to have someone who cares about every single pixel was incredibly challenging and incredibly satisfying, both at the same time.
Well, as an artist, would you consider yourself a painter of light?
No, color is my undoing. That is my undoing.
Every time he said it, you're like, he knows color. He says it. That's how you know he's brilliant at it, because it's never good enough.
Line. I could control line, color, like Dice, Robert Dice Isumi, one of the brilliant painters that helped us. They can control, and Robert, he did our first concept piece. They can control color and light. I can control line. It's my lifelong wish is to be able to sort of approach controlling color.
Well, I think Nicole and I are right, and I think all of you will agree when you see Sanjay's super team that Sanjay he is masterful with color, and especially when used in light. One of the designs that is very striking within the animation is the use of a lacy filigree backdrop to the Hindu deities, with light streaming from behind as the deities themselves have this ghosting cosmic light effect. It is simply stunning, and I do hope all of you see it and enjoy it and think about, Sanjay talking about and Nicole talking about what went into this visual design. But something else that I found quite fascinating was that the horizon line was moved within the film. Typically, when you're looking at animated films, you're looking at it straight on. Everything is happening at eye level. Here, Sanjay moves the horizon line, essentially tilting the camera down, moving it into something that resembles, in many cases, a 1930s, 40s film noir Dutching of the angle. So it widens out the perspective, and it gives a very unique flavor and great feeling when you look at it, especially not in a dark noirish light, but with the brightness, with the filigree, with the magentas, with the neon turquoise. it is Technicolor glorious, quite honestly. So I asked Sanjay and Nicole about moving that horizon line and their whole idea behind the philosophy behind it and the challenges of it.
Well, we can continue to work on camera well into the process. I mean, usually we lock our cameras, we send it into animation, we're more or less done. We do some fixes, but this guy had us going and going, right? I mean,
And philosophically, we wanted the apartment to be as horizontally driven as possible. Everything to be 90s, okay, boxes. And then soon as I was freed out of that immigrant sort of trap and you take our character into his dream, well, let's really have all this sort of movement, and we wanted nothing to feel like
nothing was
square.
Nothing was square angles. Everything was rounded and had circumference.
We wanted that. That was all intentional. The square versus the circle was a philosophical principle that underpinned all the art direction. The whole beginning is about squares. The whole middle is about circles, and that's underlying in the philosophy. The philosophy of the East is about the sort of many lives, and the philosophy of the West or the Occident is kind of this.
Let's just butt against everybody.
Or one life, it's A to B versus infinity. Again, philosophical, esoteric, but it gave our team this jumping off point.
And something else that is incorporated within the visual design with the structure of Sanjay's super team is also the cultural dance movements that inspire the movements of the three Hindu deities. There are three different styles of dance that are incorporated, with each deity having their own, as well as each deity embodying their own color. For example, Vishnu is always blue, representing perseverance and balance. Durga has power and grace. Warmer aspects of color comes through. Then Hanuman can transform on the fly and is a monkey demigod that is embraced with greens. And each one encompasses the different dance movements of various Hindu dances. It is really stunning to look at. But beyond the visuals, there is a great emotional resonance here in the relationship of the father and son. So as with everything Pixar does, it hits you in your heart. It looks beautiful. It pushes the envelope, and you're going to love it. And that opens on Wednesday ahead of The Good Dinosaur. Right now, we're going to take a commercial break. Then we'll be back and start hearing from our cast and crew of The Good Dinosaur. Behind the Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com. And we are back. And I have to say here, very good selection of promos and commercials there, Brian. You know, he's bowing in the booth. He's not on headphones or speaker, but he's making faces at me. Because number one, fantastic show. On Fridays, take a listen to the super organizer, James Lott. He airs 10 to 11 on Fridays here on Adrenaline Radio. And I'm so thrilled that we had Bonnie Plants. Considering that we are going to talk gardening in a little bit, perfect. Good job, Brian. Good job. But right now we're going to talk about one of my most favorite people on the planet. And I know some of my colleagues out there are probably laughing. We're going to talk about Sam Elliott as a T-Rex. That's right. Sam Elliott is a T-Rex, and he voices a T-Rex in The Good Dinosaur, as well as Anna Paquin. Sam's T-Rex is named Butch. He is a cowboy T-Rex. Anna Paquin plays Butch's daughter Ramsey, and AJ Buckley voices Butch's son Nash. And these are just three of the little adventurers that our hero Arlo and his friend Spot meet up with along their adventures trying to find a way home. For those of you that have not listened or who've been under a rock or who haven't read or anything about The Good Dinosaur or seen any trailers, The Good Dinosaur is essentially a story of a boy and his dog, but in reverse. Here, the dinosaur is more or less a boy. Dinosaur is Arlo. The little boy, which is more or less a dog, is Spot. And the whole setup is, what if the asteroid that destroyed the Earth didn't hit the Earth? What if the dinosaurs ruled the Earth to this day? What would happen? And as we've talked about in prior weeks, and as you've heard from Sharon Callahan and Harley Jessup, everything here is based upon the imagery and Mother Nature, weather, colors, lighting, the whole geological breakdown of Snake River Valley area, Idaho, Wyoming, that whole beautiful, beautiful region of the United States. So in our recent press day, had a chance to sit down and talk with some of our dinosaur people, and had a chance to ask them all, how did it feel to get cast as a dinosaur in The Good Dinosaur?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that in terms of the animation world.
No.
I was saying in the other room, it's like getting a call saying that you made the Olympic team. It's like that call just doesn't. I told my agent, I thought she was joking. I was like, "Are you sure it's the right AJ Buckley? Like, are you sure they want me?" And she was like, "There's only one AJ Buckley." So.
Well, they've totally turned it upside down, haven't they? I mean, in terms of the sensibility of these guys, they're still meat eaters, I suppose they are. I mean, they're I'm not sure how to put it, but they're not typical of any T-Rex that's ever been represented on film or in animation that I'm privy to. And I think that's part of the charm of this thing. Certainly all the overriding themes that are involved, and whether it's the T-Rexes or the kid on his journey, this is about real life. There's a lot of themes in here that ring true for families and parents and children, and there's great things to be taken away from this. It's one thing to be able to entertain people, and we're blessed that we get to do that. I've always felt, but it's another thing to inform people, or to provoke people, or make them think.
So after I had a chance to ask Sam and Anna and AJ about being cast in The Good Dinosaur, what does our hero Raymond Ochoa, who voices Arlo, think about it, as well as Jeffery Wright? Jeffery Wright's getting a lot of screen time right now. Any Jeffery Wright fans out there, any fans of the Hunger Games, he is back in Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 in theaters right now, reprising his role as Beatty. And here he is as a Apatosaurus to Arlo. So, how did they feel about being cast?
Well, I think it was in that I live vicariously through these things with my children. It was intensely exciting for me because it was so for them. Yeah, it was beyond the popularity of the movies and the prominence that they have for kids my kids' age and Raymond's age now. They're really good stories. It's really seriously well considered storytelling, and the themes of this one, which are so universal and fairly obvious around parenthood and family and love and responsibility and nurturing, all of these things are so resonant, So that's really very gratifying to be a part of. On top of that, it makes me, the Hunger Games went a long way in this regard, But now a Pixar movie makes me even that much cooler with the kids, my kids, and their friends at school. So that's always advantageous.
And what about for you, Raymond?
Well, I mean, I think I can speak for every actor that sometime in their life they've come across a point where they're like, I want to be in a Pixar film. And trust me, I have 3 older brothers that are all actors, and every time they tell me, wow, I can't believe you're in a Pixar movie. But, I mean, it really, in my eyes, it's really a dream come true, because I have wanted to be in a Pixar movie for a while. I love Monsters, Inc. It's my favorite movie ever of all time. So just to be in a Pixar movie, I'm so grateful for that, and it's an amazing opportunity. And I thank Pixar every day for giving me it.
Well, and let's just point something out there that I think Raymond may be changing his mind as to his favorite Pixar movie ever. I think it's going to switch very soon from Monsters, Inc. to The Good Dinosaur. But then you have to wonder, you're excited, you're going to be a dinosaur. How do you prepare to be a dinosaur? So here's what Raymond had to tell us about preparing to be a dinosaur.
Well, I mean, I have great parents, and they're so helpful in everything I do. So, when I knew that I was an Apatosaurus, they helped me on what it actually was. They helped me Google stuff. They helped me Google facts about it, and, good things about the thing and what it actually looked like, because I had no idea what it looked like. I didn't know what an Apatosaurus was at the time. But, you kind of get to learn those things, and I looked it up. I was like, wow, okay, and I saw a picture of it. I was like, this dinosaur doesn't look that mean. But, it doesn't look kid-friendly at the same time either. If you just saw that thing walking around, you'd be scared of it. So being a Pixar movie, you kind of do have to be able to research enough work to make it look like and sound like a dinosaur that's kid-friendly for kids to, be able to listen to and be like, okay, I'm not scared of that voice. And my voice was really high at the time, so no one would be scared of that voice. But yeah, I mean, I got through it. I mean, people, after I watched it, I was like, wow, I really liked the outcome of it. And, the schooling did work for it, being able to, research stuff, because I researched stuff that my parents didn't find either. They researched their own stuff, I researched my own stuff, and that's how it really happened. It was, but I got a lot of research out of it. I got a good idea of it, and I think that was what really helped me get the part, was because I did go in with the understanding of what it actually was, rather than an average person who just says lines in front of a thing and be like, oh, okay, let's send it over.
And what's the most interesting thing that you remember learning about your character?
What it actually looked like. I think that was the most interesting. It could have looked like a Tyrannosaurus Rex for all I knew. I mean, I obviously knew it wasn't that, but I mean, yeah, it was really cool knowing what it looked like, because after I found out what it was and what kind of animal it was, or what kind of dinosaur it was, I got to see what it was, and it was really cool because having seen the long neck. Would you know it as the dinosaur?
Brontosaurus.
Yeah, that. I don't know how to pronounce that. I know how to pronounce Apatosaurus. I'm still trying to get the name that one right. But yeah, it was really cool to be able to see what it looked like.
Yes, for all of us old school people that learned about dinosaurs ages ago, yes, the Apatosaurus does greatly resemble the Brontosaurus. So, I understood exactly why Jeffery, knew what it was. But besides Raymond, what about everybody else preparing to be a dinosaur? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, when I asked Sam Elliott, all he did was look at me, shake his head, and mouth no. He didn't need to prepare. But for Anna Paquin and AJ Buckley, they did their own kind of preparation.
Well, my kids have this really cool series of books called How Does a Dinosaur Clean Up His Room and How Does a Dinosaur Take Care of His Cats? It's those nights, I don't know if any of you guys have kids or have seen these, that's basically like using dinosaurs to teach important childhood lessons and life skills and morals and things. So there's quite a lot of that in our household at the moment, and sort of had been for a while. Quite a lot of visits to museums. But generally it was kind of nothing to do with this, but sort of, nice timing.
What about you, AJ?
I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid. I was many times grounded for digging up my mom's beautiful backyard looking for fossils. and ruining my dad's toothbrush when I thought I found something and I needed to gently scrape the dirt off. So I was a big fan of dinosaurs back in the day. So I not that I know all the facts, but I just geeked out. It was great.
You were dinosaur ready.
I was ready. I worked my whole life for this moment to be a dinosaur.
So, and now we go from talking about AJ Buckley digging up his mother's backyard looking for dinosaur bones to Delila Vallot, who is hung out with a lot of really cool gangster gardeners who are digging up dirt in South Central LA. Hello, Delila. Welcome. I'm so thrilled that you could join us today. I love this documentary. It is a glorious bright spot for a culture that people think, they have such negative connotations for. But this is truly shifting the nature of South Central LA.
It is true. The few gardens that are there so far are definitely making a difference. And thanks for calling the movie inspirational, because that was the goal. So I'm happy to hear that.
How did this idea come to you about doing a documentary on the urban gardening phenomenon that's happening?
It's kind of triple-fold. I came across urban gardening like the rest of us who are all sort of part of this zeitgeist. We all love natural food and all that stuff, but also it's an interracial child. My mom comes from Hollywood. She's a sort of eclectic lady that brought me up there, but I also would spend time with my black father, who was from South LA, up until the time I was about 9 years old, and I definitely noticed a bit of a disparity between the two areas, even as a kid. And then when I got older, I wanted to go back and see what the differences were, and had also come across Ron Finley's story via the producers at Delirio Films, and was highly interested in his diatribe about changing lives through gardening, and wanted to see if that was real or not firsthand, and then capture it.
Well, and you do that through some extremely engaging people. You've got Spicy, who I just think he's just a kick in the butt. Kenya, that girl, she's going to go places if she stays on this path. The adorable 8-year-old Quimoni Lewis, oh my God, she is out there hustling, and she is all for gardening. And then the charming Hosea and his friend Henry at the halfway house after they were released from prison. All of their stories are so resonant, they're so touching, and you really let us see the metaphor of the parallel of how somebody can grow as a person the same way that plants grow. And that is so connective and so palpable when you watch this. And it's because of the individuals that you're focusing on. How did you go about finding them and selecting them to be in the documentary?
It was quite a long journey finding the characters for the movie. It took a lot of research and a lot of time in gardens, meeting people and talking to people, a lot of time on the phone talking to various organizations, and kind of just sort of taking a leap of faith and jumping off the edge with people that I feel, drawn towards, who are starting their first gardens, that was also difficult in and of itself, because there are people who might have been in the middle of a garden, but nobody wants to see a story about someone who's in the middle of their journey. We want to start from the beginning. So I was starting out with people that I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And so it was a lot of hard work and a bit of luck.
Okay, if you had to pick a favorite out of the individuals you focus on, do you have one?
You're going to get me in trouble. It's split 4 ways. They're all my favorites in different ways, and what I love about them is that they all represent a different part of humanity. Like you said, Kimani, she's just a spitfire, but she's only 8 years old, and so parents with young kids can really relate to her story, and kids can relate to her story. Hosea, he's on the latter half of his life, and an older gentleman, and very charming. And I when I go to film festivals, I kind of can see the seniors in the audience really relating to him as well as everybody else. And then Kenya and Spicy, early 20s, sort of, what is that, the Y generation now?
I think so.
Yeah, they represent something really, really different, and that's relatable for early 20s.
Well, and, so many people, and one of the things that I love about Hosea, you have him in there, is so many people do think of, their grandmother's garden, that's what you do when you retire. But here is a man who has been imprisoned for 30 years, and he gets out of jail and wants to live his life for the first time with a renewed growth, and starts gardening for the very first time. He's not looking at this as retirement. This is the start of his life.
It's very true, and something that he thought about a lot while he was in prison, and what being able to plant means to him is freedom, and something that reminds us all that we have the capability to do any day, every day, and that maybe we might take it for granted, I suppose.
What kind of challenges because you follow this whole journey from the idea of everybody starting a garden, thinking they can't do a garden, realizing, hey, maybe I can do this, and you go to, fruit and seeds and flowers, and Kumani making lots of money and counting her money, which is the most enchanting part of the entire film. I want you to know that.
I'll let her know, too.
But, you're following them on this journey. What were the challenges like for you to spend that much time, and following up after, 2 months, 3 months, or however long the journey was?
Well, I think, first and foremost, doing a documentary, it's like, this is my first doc, and I guess I had the assumption that everybody wanted to be on camera, and that is not true. We're in Los Angeles. I thought, sure, of course, they're just going to say yes right off the bat. But, people didn't necessarily want to open up to me right away. So I think the challenging part was actually realizing that I have to open up just as much as they do in order to tell a story. And then also you set out to, you have a thesis. You say, I believe that gardens make a difference in people's lives, and then some days aren't easy for people, and whether they have a garden and a supportive community around them or not, and you're going along with people and feeling their pain and getting really close and feeling involved, and sometimes wondering, how is all this footage going to come together and create a cohesive story.
How often did you check back with all of them once, you got over the hurdle of them appearing on camera, and once the gardens, got started? How often did you check in and go back to get more footage of the progress of the gardens and the individuals?
I pretty much stayed. I lived my life with people for about a year.
Wow.
And since there's 4 characters, that was like, basically every day, just sort of making appointments with people. Hey, what are you doing today? Can I show up and hang out with you? Or, if they have something going on, and sometimes convincing people that things that are going on in their lives that are just normal mundane activities are actually interesting. What do you want to come over for that for? We're just having dinner, Delila. I don't know. It's just interesting. Can I come hang out with you? So there was a lot of that and a lot of time in gardenings, which from a filmmaking perspective, since I shot the thing, that camera after a while, it was the C300, it's supposed to be a very light camera. It gets kind of heavy, and a lot of the time you're in the noonday sun with, dirt in your shoes, and that from a physical perspective could get a little bit exhausting. But well worth it.
Oh my God. Well, did you learn anything about gardening in this process? Do you have a green thumb?
I ironically have not started my own garden yet. I am waiting for the spring, which is one thing that I did learn that does kind of make it easier. And we're really lucky here in California that we've got weather that allows for planting year-round. And I did also learn that maybe we make it more difficult than it has to be, that it's something that's sort of innate for all of us, that, planting a seed and putting it in dirt and watering it does produce life, and that plants want to grow. Ron Finley says that all the time, that plants want to grow. And I've run across a lot of really highly capable, intelligent people who are afraid of tomatoes. They're afraid of plants, and I don't really know what it is, but it gave me a lot more confidence that I can grow things and produce a lot of goodness from it.
Well, and something that I noticed that in this water challenge time in California is the judicious way in which everybody waters their garden. They'll fill up, they use the adorable, watering cans that sprinkle it. They're placing the water where it needs to be. They're not flooding the whole bed. So so nobody can use the excuse of, well, we have to conserve water, we can't have a garden.
That's true, and I don't have the exact statistics, but I did also come across that subject as far as how much water green grass takes versus edible gardens, and my understanding is that it's actually less, and that there are all kinds of things that people can do, i.e. gray water, saving water from dishes if they want to get that fantastical about it. But yeah, I think that even in drought, it is capable of having an environmentally sound garden.
Now, did you sample any of the vegetables that were grown or any of the greens that Kumoni actually grew, since she was trying to get everybody to eat them?
All the time. And was so excited anytime anybody gave me anything from their gardens, because you're watching them grow these plants, and when it's a huge gift when somebody gives you something from them, and 100% of the time it was better than anything that I've grabbed from the supermarket or the farmer's market.
How instrumental was Ron Finley throughout your filming? Because Ron has such a handle not on the concept and on promoting the concept, and you just look at his garden and what he's inspired. I mean, it literally is a Garden of Eden, and he's got it down to his own composting, and he talks about making how you get your own seeds to germinate a new plant just from taking the seeds out of a tomato.
Yeah, he is the inspiration behind the movie, and inspired me on a personal level. And really, he was there a lot watching cuts as we edited the movie, and would come back with his feedback. And to me, that was also very important, that the stories that we were telling were stories that he felt related to what his ultimate message is, which to me is that we all are empowered by this sort of simple thing that we've gotten really far away from. He'd probably say it in a lot cooler, more charming way than that. But yeah, he was the ultimate inspiration behind the movie.
Well, I love his mantra that he repeated, multiple times. He did it in the TED conferences, which anybody that doesn't know what the TED conferences are, they are some of the coolest things out there. technology, entertainment, and design. It's about ideas worth spreading. It's held every year here on the West Coast. It's nonprofit, and they're fabulous. And I love his mantra where where you have him saying, both in talking to you individually and then up on stage at a conference, don't pick up a gun, pick up a shovel and dig in the dirt.
Yeah, and also, what does he say? Planting your own vegetables is like printing your own money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot of really good ones that simplify what the issue is, and ultimately helping to empower all of us, no matter where we live.
Well, you see the changes just within, you see Spicy's whole attitude about life change in the course of having a garden. You see Kenya's whole attitude change once she gets involved and really puts her back into a garden. And you hear the joy in their voices that, life does spring. It's there for the taking. And you see, it's all it takes is seeing another life grow to make your own grow. And you do a beautiful job of, putting that out there for all of us.
Thank you. Yeah, because it is a lot more than just about food. It's, surrounding ourselves with beautiful green stuff that just kind of makes us feel better every day.
And then when you're Kumoni, you get beautiful green stuff in the ground, and it turns into beautiful green stuff in your hand when you sell it. Now, I have to ask you, John Legend, I know a lot of people are making a big deal of that. John Legend is executive producing this. He's known for a lot of the work that he does for the greater good. And this definitely is a documentary that can be for the greater good for everybody. How did John get involved in this?
Yeah, he saw an earlier cut of the movie and supported it right away, which I'm so appreciative of. And that was through the amazing producers at Delirio Films. Raphael Marmore and Christopher Leggett. Those guys are just really good at talking to people and reaching out. So, yeah, that's how that happened.
So now that you've made it through your first feature-length documentary, what did you learn about yourself as a filmmaker?
Interesting question. I feel like I know for one that if I'm going to dive into another documentary, I have a much better idea of how much it takes to produce one. And I feel like I'm a stronger storyteller because you sort of tell, as a director, you tell stories in retrospect almost when you're shooting a doc like this one. So I'm looking forward to seeing how much stronger I am as a narrative filmmaker next project around.
Now, do you have another project on your plate yet?
I do. I have about 5 things that are in the works, creatively in the works, at various stages, and I'm not sure which one's going to unfold first, but, in the creative field, you're not quite sure which thing is going to pop up, so I'm, spending a lot of time working on those things to get them going.
So now, what are the release plans for Can You Dig This?
Can You Dig This is actually coming out December 1st on VOD, and also theatrical on demand, where people can see the movie theatrically in any city.
Is that being set up through Tug or one of the other event companies similar to that, where people?
Yeah, that one's Gather.
This one's Gather.
Yes.
So they can just go online to the
our website is www.canyoudigthisfilm.com, and they can just go to the screenings tab and type in their zip code and see which screenings are in their area.
Well, and I think it's a valuable film for everyone to see. And as we see in the credits, which is why people need to sit through the credits of a film, because you see these great snapshots of urban gardening that's being done in other cities all around the country.
Yes, and I feel like we're definitely part of a growing movement that's really great for everybody. And so if people are already gardeners, this sort of, preaches their message for them. And if people are on the fence about gardening, this kind of helps people get inspired.
Well, it definitely inspired me, and even though I can't grow a darn thing, I am actually going to try in the spring again with some tomatoes or something.
That's great.
Delila, I can't thank you enough. For the documentary and for being on the show today. Absolutely fabulous. And I hope you'll be back on when you have another project.
Done.
Wonderful. Thanks, Delila.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And that was Delila Vallot, the director and documentarian of Can You Dig This? We're going to take a very quick break right now and come back with some more good dinosaur digging. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is the #1 newspaper in Culver City, covering local news, politics, and community events, with sports by Mitch Chortkoff and movie reviews by Debbie Lynn Elias. Culver City Observer is the place to go to be in the know. When you think Culver City and the heart of Screenland, think Culver City Observer. When you think movies and movie reviews, think Culver City Observer. Culver City Observer, a division of Arizona Newspaper Group, is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com. And we're back. If you were listening, we had live with us Delila Vallot talking about Can You Dig This? Gardening. Gardening is good. And so is digging for dinosaur bones, as we heard AJ Buckley talk, until you get caught using your dad's toothbrush and digging up your mom's garden. But moving along with The Good Dinosaur, Pete Sohn is the driving force behind this movie. This story was his brainchild and his vision. He is so joyous. It is infectious. He is enthusiastic when you hear him talk about the film. So I had to ask our cast, what was it like working with Pete, and how did he help bring the dino out in each of them? Here's what Jeffery, Wright, and Raymond Ochoa had to say.
Well, Pete, he told me he was so helpful in telling us what the characters were, their backgrounds, their ideas. He told me, that I was scared. For all I knew, I thought, he was this brave dinosaur, because that's what I think dinosaurs are. I think they're brave, and but that's not Arlo. He's not like that. So he informed me about that. He informed me about every other character, Papa and his close relationship, and then what was the other part? There was one more.
What was the challenging?
Okay, yes, sorry. What was challenging was the fact that I had to bring out, because I'm a very open person. I'm very outgoing. So to have a dinosaur and talk like a dinosaur that's very not outgoing. He's very scared. He's shy. He's not like how I am. So it was trying to that's when real acting had to come out, because that's not me. So I had to bring out my old self, because I was like that at one point. So I had to reach into really deep into my old self, and that's how it would happen. It was really cool though. It was a fun experience.
Peter, again, was so. It was just all living in his imagination. It was living in his head. I mean, and as Raymond describes, had just multiple levels of detail for every character and background. He knew where Papa had gone to, college, agriculture, I think it was in Colorado. It was just unbelievable levels of detail. And again, I just can't overemphasize enough how he expressed it all through this this like almost initially disarming or kind of alarming innocence, is really wonderful. He's like a genuinely, there's a genuine joy and like simplicity of that joy that he expresses in describing this world to us and in working with us. It is really just seriously infectious, and I think that's what's required to tell a story like this. You can't fake it, There's a genuine. He's got this genuine joy, but also a genuine sense of the ideals that are expressed through this. I think live within him and are very meaningful to him.
He's a very intelligent person. That's what I got out of him.
You get that too.
That too.
Yeah.
And I think we can hear Sam Elliott as the last word on working with Pete Sohn.
And the first thing I saw was words on the page. You see the scenes. You don't see the script. You just see the scenes that you're involved with. And a rendering. There was an 8x10 rendering of what this character looked like. But when he got into the studio with Pete, I didn't go up to Pixar to their facility up north. I did mine in L.A. and I did it in a day. But when you go in there and you meet this guy that is so enthusiastic and so specific in his vision, and he has this incredible ability to draw that vision out of the performers, and that's a real gifted director. And he's, as you saw undoubtedly through talking to him, I mean, he is a very enthusiastic individual and a very sweet guy. And he's the right guy to do this thing. It may be his first, but it's certainly not going to be his last.
Yeah.
And I think all of you are going to agree with Sam's assessment. This will not be Pete Sohn's last animated film for Pixar. You're going to fall in love with this one, and I personally would like to see a sequel. And it's time to go. On a final roar from Sam Elliott as Butch the T-Rex, that's it. We'll be back next week. We've got a bunch of guests coming up for the next month. And we'll see you then on Behind the Lens.